Many years ago, in a distant land called Yore, there lived a couple named Naya and Nuru. Naya and Nuru were deeply in love with each other. They had known each other since they were children because Naya's father and Nuru's father were best friends. Naya and Nuru started their relationship as friends. They would play hide and seek, chase animals, and play many other games together. As they grew up, they became very close and fell in love with each other. Before they got married, they spoke many times about how they wanted to have a big family filled with laughter of children. In their 10 years of marriage, the couple had tried many times to start a family, but they were never successful. Naya had carried 8 pregnancies, but none of them ever made it to term. Naya was very frustrated by this and began to get jealous whenever she saw other women with children. Many of these women were younger than her. Some of them even had children within a year of getting married. Naya seemed to see children and their mothers everywhere she looked. When she went to the market, they were there. When she went to fetch water, they were there. Even when she was in her home, she would still be reminded of her situation by the neighbor's crying child. Naya felt sorry for herself, but she really hated it when people in the community would talk about her lack of children as they were always insensitive. They would say, "Naya, how long have you been married now with no child? God will do it for you so you don't lose your husband." She was sick and tired of these constant comments. Nuru wanted nothing more than to be a father, but his love for his wife outweighed that desire. He would encourage her every day and support her whenever she was low. One day, after Naya and Nuru finished eating dinner, Naya spoke to her husband. "Nuru, I'm tired. Are you not tired as well? We've lost 8 children and I cannot carry on like this. I will do anything to be a mother, even if the child is not from my own loins. There are plenty of children at Zuri's orphanage and we have a lot of love to give. Please, can we adopt?" she pleaded. Nuru stared at her and shook his head. "Naya, I understand your pain, but my feelings about adoption haven't changed. I worry that I won't be able to love another man's child as my own. It's not just about the child, it's the future of our family." Naya began to cry. She was eager to feel like a mother, but her husband was not even trying to compromise. So she decided to try again and convince him. "But what value do I have if I cannot be a mother? At least, if I can't have children for myself, let me be a mother to someone who is motherless." Nuru looked at her in annoyance and said, "I know you are desperate, Naya, but we're not having this conversation. My decision is final." Then he stormed out of the room, and they didn't speak to each other for the rest of that night. The next morning, as Nuru and Naya were getting ready to start the day, Nuru took Naya's hand and said, "My wife, do you know how much I love you? I know how desperate you are to have children, but I don't know if I can agree to adopting a child. I want to be in a position to give all my love to the child, but I'm not there yet. If I agree to this now, I fear I will resent this child." Naya was disappointed and sad. She smiled, nodded, and left for the market. She walked past the noisy market and continued walking and walking. Villagers tried to talk to her, but she didn't even see them. Her mind was completely blank, and she was very deep in her feelings. She couldn't stop thinking about what the point of living was if she could not experience the joy of motherhood. It replayed in her head over and over. She had walked for so many hours that it was now dark, and she had ended up in the next village, Umo. It was a sudden breeze and rustle in the high grass that brought her back to reality. Naya was scared. She feared that there could be a wild animal in the grass, but something prompted her to have a look. As she slowly approached, the insects were chirping loudly. Her heart began to beat faster. She wondered why she was taking such a risk, but she couldn't help herself. As she pulled back the grass, she gasped. She couldn't believe it. How could somebody abandon a baby at this time of the day? She thought to herself. As she picked up the baby boy, standing under the full moon, she realized there was something disturbing about the baby. The baby looked very old. His skin was entirely wrinkled. His eyes could barely open, and he had no hair. But her heart felt so warm that she immediately felt like the boy's mother and decided to take the child home. Nuru was very worried about his wife's whereabouts. He paced in the kitchen and thought about where Naya could be. She had gone to the market just before he left to go hunting, and when he returned, he didn't find her there. He had asked neighbors and villagers if they had seen her. They told him that they had seen her wandering around the market, but didn't know where she went. As he grabbed his flashlight, about to set out looking for her, the door opened. Naya, thank God you are safe. Where have you been all day? Naya looked tired, but extremely joyful. As she was about to respond, Nuru noticed that Naya had something in her hand. What are you holding? Nuru said worriedly. Nuru, you won't believe it. It's like God answered my prayers. I was so sad today that I ended up in Umo and found this baby left all alone in the field, Naya said with excitement. Naya, what have you done? We had discussed this so many times. How can you take a child that does not belong to you? What if someone's looking for this child right now? As Nuru peeped at the child, he shouted and jumped back. This child is cursed. Look at it. No. I hope you're not planning on keeping this thing. You must take it back tomorrow. I will not have this abomination in my house. Naya dropped to her knees and began begging. Please, my husband, please, do this for me. I can't continue the way I was before, and this child needs me, please. Nuru burned with anger and insisted that they return the baby the following day. So, that night, she cared for the baby, sang to him, fed him, and cleaned him. She felt so much joy caring for that child, the most she had ever felt in her entire life. The next day, Nuru, Naya, and the child went back to Umo and began asking villagers if they knew the child or anyone searching for the child. The villagers said no, and when they saw the child, they would exclaim loudly and back off. They would call the child all sorts of names, and most people would say the child was cursed. Eventually, the people drove them out of Umo as they feared the child's curse would come on them the longer they stayed in the village with the child. When they got back home, Nuru was very upset and he said to Naya, "Are you happy now? Are you happy? You finally got what you wanted and we are going to be the laughingstock of Yore. How do you expect to explain this to people? You're on your own. This is no child of mine." Naya didn't mind looking after the child on her own. This is what she always wanted. She was going to love this boy with everything she had. Even if her husband didn't, the child was a big gift for her. So she called him Zawadi. News spread in Yore that Naya and Nuru had a baby boy. And the villagers were happy for them. But many wondered where the baby came from. Some villagers would say, "Where did that baby come from? Was it not the other day that we saw Naya walking aimlessly in the market? She's barren, so where did this child come from?" For the next few weeks, as Naya took care of Zawadi, she kept a very low profile and was not seen much in public. When she had to go out with Zawadi, she would make sure he was well covered. Some villagers would approach and try to see Zawadi, but Naya would walk past very quickly, keeping himself concealed. Nuru was disgusted with Zawadi. He would always call him it and never wanted anything to do with him. He wouldn't even look at him. Every night he would go to the local tavern for hours. He would come back in the early hours of the morning, drunk and stumbling everywhere. He would barge into the bedroom where Naya and Zawadi were sleeping, waking them up and start heaping insults on both of them before leaving to sleep in the living room. Naya was disappointed in her husband. She tried many times to speak to Nuru, but it always ended up with him shouting at her. The next evening, Nuru went to the local tavern again. After drinking many bottles of palm wine, he became extremely drunk and started talking loosely. He told one of his friends, "That stupid wife. She has brought an abomination to my home. The child you are all wanting to see is cursed. Yes, its skin is 1,000 times more wrinkled than yours, and I hate her for letting that thing come between the two of us. Like Umo, the people of Yore were very superstitious. They believed in curses and that curses could spread. So the men from the tavern took this information to the elder of Yore, Mama Shani. Mama Shani was 95 years old. She was very wise and a very key figure in Yore. Mama Shani, understanding their concern, asked the men to bring Naya, Nuru, and Zawadi to her the following morning in the town square. When they arrived, there was already a crowd gathered as everyone wanted to see Naya and Nuru's child. Mama Shani noticed that Naya was very scared and protective of the baby. "Child, don't worry. Everything is going to be okay. Let me see the child," Mama Shani said reassuringly. Naya's eyes met Mama Shani's in trust, and reluctantly she handed Zawadi over to Mama Shani. As Mama Shani pulled back the cloth covering Zawadi, there was a huge gasp from the crowd. People shouted, "That child is cursed!" Others shouted, "Abomination!" Others even shouted, "It has to be burnt!" But Mama Shani remained very calm. Her eyes were as still as a lake. She examined Zawadi very carefully, stroked his skin, touched his head, and gently returned him to Naya. As the people were still shouting and screaming, Mama Shani slowly held up her right hand, and immediately everyone stopped talking. "This child is not cursed. I have seen this condition before. It is very, very rare. As soon as the boy turns 18, his skin will be back to normal. When you look at him then, you will not be able to tell the difference between him and any other child his age. Legends say that children like this are also very blessed with a special talent which will fully manifest when he reaches adulthood. There is nothing else to see here. Go in peace, Naya and Nuru." As Zawadi grew older, some villagers gradually grew fond of him despite his unusual appearance. However, a few still whispered about curses and misfortune. His talent for singing slowly won more hearts, but not without lingering doubts and superstitions. In those days, it was common for women to sing, but not men. If a man was caught singing, he would be ridiculed by other men. But yet, whenever Zawadi sang, people listened and were quiet. Some people would cry, but others would be left speechless. His songs became so popular that people even came from Umo, the neighboring village, just to hear him sing. Everyone loved Zawadi's voice, except Nuru. Over the years, Nuru had accepted that Zawadi would be living with him and Naya, but refused to consider him as his son. Nuru had gotten unhealthy from all the palm wine he drank over the years, and he wasn't able to hunt effectively on his own, and he needed Zawadi's assistance. Before they headed out on a hunt, he would say, "For as long as you live under my roof, you cannot be singing. Are you a woman? You better watch, and I'll show you how to hunt, so you can leave this house and fend for yourself." Whenever he caught Zawadi singing in public, he would drag him away from the crowd and beat him with his belt. Naya always tried to defend her son and encouraged him. She would say, "Zawadi, my gift from God, you're so talented. Never let anyone silence you. No one. Always use your voice." One day, after Zawadi woke up, he went to greet his mother good morning, as he usually did every morning, but she was non-responsive. She had passed away in her sleep. Zawadi was very, very sad. He cried for days and didn't eat. His mother was the only person that had shown him unconditional love, despite all the challenges. Nuru was also very sad. Naya had been his best friend since childhood, and even though they had their fair share of challenges, he still loved her very much. Nuru called Zawadi aside and said, "Look, I know you are heartbroken right now. I know how much she loved and cared for you. If I had my way, you would be out of here by the end of the week. But for Naya's sake, you can stay on one condition. Give up singing and become a hunter." Zawadi agreed, and for many years he and Nuru hunted together. Zawadi hated hunting, but he felt he had no choice. After all, his mother was not around to protect him anymore. On the morning of Zawadi's 18th birthday, as he was about to brush his teeth, he looked in the mirror and his eyes widened in shock. The man in the mirror was completely unrecognizable. His wrinkles had gone. His eyes were crystal clear. His hair was full. He was very handsome. His mom had told him many times that an elder many years ago mentioned that his skin would change when he turned 18. He had not believed any of that, but she was right. He jumped and danced and couldn't help but start singing. Nuru stormed in and was startled. "Who are you? And what are you doing here? If you don't get out of here, I'll shoot you," he said. "No, it's me. It's Zawadi." Nuru was completely shocked. He couldn't believe who he was looking at. Zawadi was exactly how he hoped his son would look at this age. He looked at Zawadi one more time in disbelief, feeling a mixture of awe and guilt, before he quietly left the room. Zawadi couldn't contain his excitement. He went to the town and began singing. News spread fast, and soon a huge crowd gathered. After the first song, a villager said, "You sound just like someone from this village. Who are you?" "Everybody, it's me. It's Zawadi." The crowd was shocked and started talking over each other. One of the villagers stepped forward, his eyes wide with realization. "I was there when Mama Shani confirmed that he would look different on his 18th birthday and be unrecognizable," he said, pointing at Zawadi. The crowd erupted in cheers and congratulations, celebrating Zawadi's transformation. As Zawadi basked in the joy of the moment, a tall man approached him with a familiar yet distant look. Zawadi recognized him as a quiet observer from the village. The man extended his hand, and Zawadi felt an unusual warmth as they shook hands. "Congratulations, Zawadi," the tall man said. "Your voice is truly a gift." "Thank you," Zawadi said. As Zawadi started walking away from the crowd, the man walked closer. "My name is Radi, and there's something you need to know. I am your biological father." Zawadi's eyes widened in shock. Radi continued, his voice steady. "Your mother died during childbirth. I was scared because I had no family, and I couldn't take care of you alone. I planned to drop you off at an orphanage, but then I saw a woman walking towards me. She seemed distressed and upset, talking to herself about how all she wanted was to be a mother. I felt a connection with her and placed you in the high grass on the path she was walking." Radi paused, letting the information sink in. "I have been watching you from a distance ever since. I was there when Mama Shani spoke about you, and when you sang your first song. I know there's something special about you, Zawadi." Zawadi was overwhelmed. He knew he was not Naya and Nuru's biological son, but hearing the truth gave him a sense of peace. "Why are you telling me this now?" he asked. Radi looked into Zawadi's eyes. "Because your voice is too big for this small town. You must go to the ruler's palace and try out for one of the open positions as singer for the kingdom. Here, take this money for your journey." With newfound courage, Zawadi set out on a month-long journey to the palace. When he arrived, the guards refused to let him in. Despite pleading his case, they sent him away because they were bound by strict traditions of the courts. When Zawadi returned home, he saw one of Nuru's friends from the local tavern. "Zawadi, where have you been? Nuru is severely ill and on his deathbed. He was bitten by a snake during the hunt, and the venom has taken a hold of him." Zawadi rushed to his home and found Nuru lying weak and drained. Nuru looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. "Zawadi, I'm sorry for all the years of poor treatment. My heart changed when I saw you on your 18th birthday. I realized I had been a fool. but didn't know how to say it. Zawadi took Nuru's hand, feeling a surge of emotion. "I forgive you, father." Nuru's eyes was filled with tears. "My son, sing for me before I go to meet the ancestors." For the very first time, Nuru called Zawadi son. Zawadi was filled with so much emotion that he sang from his heart. As he held Nuru's hand, a soft glow began to come out from their touch, and Nuru felt an overwhelming sense of warmth spread through his body. To their astonishment, the snake venom seemed to vanish, leaving Nuru miraculously healed. They were both shocked and amazed. "This must be what Mama Shani spoke about," Nuru said. "Your gift is not just your voice, but it has the ability to heal." Zawadi told Nuru about Radi and his trip to the ruler's palace. Nuru, now fully supportive, encouraged him to find Radi and go back to the palace. Zawadi and Radi returned back to the palace. Once again, they faced opposition from the guards, who told them the ruler was not seeing anyone because he had fallen off his horse and broke his back. They lied about the conflict in Yore and convinced the guards to let them in. The ruler, in pain and frustration, glared at them. "How did you get into my palace? What are you doing here? Guards, take them out." As they started to leave, Zawadi began to sing. The guards stopped and the whole room went silent. Zawadi walked slowly to the ruler, and as he reached for his hand, Zawadi's hand began to glow again. The ruler hesitated but allowed Zawadi to hold him. When Zawadi finished his song, the ruler was completely healed and started jumping in excitement. "You've healed me! You are truly gifted!" Zawadi was given many riches and titles, and he became the second in command to the ruler. His name spread far and wide across the land. Years later, Zawadi stood on a grand stage, a large audience waiting eagerly to hear him sing. He looked up, whispering to himself, "Thank you, Mother, for everything." The story of Naya, Nuru, and Zawadi highlights the important lessons about never giving up, the power of love, and accepting others. Naya's strong wish to be a mother, even with many challenges, shows the importance of perseverance. Her love for Zawadi, no matter how he looked, teaches us that true love goes beyond appearances and what other people think. Nuru's change from rejecting Zawadi to accepting him shows how important it is to overcome prejudice and accept those who are different. Zawadi's journey from being an outcast to becoming a celebrated singer shows how special talents can lead to great success, especially with love and support. If you like this story and want to hear more African folklore, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts and let us know what you learned from this story. Until next time.